The new Formula 1 season is just around the corner and we have testing in a few weeks, so these are my pre-testing 2023 Formula 1 predictions. So we'll start off with the constructors and which order I think the teams will finish. I think Mercedes will win the constructors this season. I think they'll have a much more competitive car in 2023, and personally I believe that Mercedes have the strongest combined driver lineup on the grid. Second, I think Red Bull will be able to get second in the constructors. I don't think Perez will score enough points to put them first. Number 3, I've gone with Ferrari. Now, they kind of fell off a bit last year, and I don't think they're going to pick up and be the quickest car again. So I've put them third. I think they'll be able to score a lot of points. I think they'll be up there for a lot of podiums, maybe a few race wins, but I think they'll get a comfortable third. I don't think anyone's going to push them that close from the midfield. So talking the midfield, McLaren, I think with Piastri coming in, I think he should be able to score a decent amount of points compared to what Ricciardo has done. Obviously, Piastri is a rookie coming through. He won't have that previous experience of different Formula 1 cars, which is what Ricciardo seemed to struggle with. So going on to 5th, I think Aston Martin will take a big step up. They're, I think, year 2 or 3 into their 5-year plan. They've just signed Alonso, who had a great year last year, and he personally said it was potentially one of his best years of racing in terms of how he was relative to the car performance. P6, I think Alpine have got an extremely strong driver lineup in Gasly and Ocon, and personally I think it is probably better than what Aston Martin have in Alonso and Stroll, but they seemed to struggle with reliability last year. I don't know if that'll be a problem this year. I can't see them pushing up the grid massively this season, although I think 5th and 6th are going to be extremely close. I think they will be pushing each other to right at the end of the championship. Number 7, AlphaTauri. Can't see them staying as far back as they were last season. They would have learned a lot. They've improved their driver lineup, and Nick and Yuki I think will be able to steer them to a comfortable 7th. Now, might be a little bit of a shock. I've gone for Williams in P8. With James Vowles coming in, I think he will be able to lead this team to a strong championship finish. Obviously, it's his first season. He'll be bringing in a lot of new structure to the team. I think this is the first time Williams have had a sort of quite a competitive driver lineup since 2019 with Russell and Kubica. I just think with that Williams team, going for James Vowles, going for Logan Sargent, that young driver, they're showing quite a lot of ambition to me. So I think they'll be able to get P8, although they might be P10 quite easily. Number 9, Alfa Romeo. Now, yeah, they didn't have a great end to 2022. Was that because they sort of gave up on their car and decided to develop for 2023? I don't know. With Zhou and Bottas, they might be different. Now, if they have a strong car, I think they could easily be sort of P6, P7 in the constructors. Personally, I saw them fall off quite a lot last year, and unless they've sort of picked it up in the off-season, I can't see them being as competitive as they were at the start of 2022. And in last place, I have gone for Haas. Now, their driver lineup just screams no ambition to me. They came into the last season's new aero regulations with a really strong car actually, but one thing Haas can't do, they don't have the budget to bring upgrades all season, which seen them fell off quite a lot throughout the season. Now obviously MoneyGram will be a new sponsor, they will have more budget this year, but in relation to all the other teams, I just don't see them picking up much of an improvement on last year. So next, my top 5 drivers in the championship. I've gone with Verstappen for the win. I think he'll get his 3rd consecutive championship. The guy is on fire at the moment, and to be honest, if that Red Bull's competitive, I can't see anyone beating him. Second, I think Hamilton will come second. I think it'll be similar to 2021, going to the wire. I just can't see Hamilton winning the championship with the Red Bull as competitive as it has been. Russell, I think Russell will get extremely close to Hamilton again, but I think Hamilton will have a better season with that car. P4, Leclerc, I think he is a great driver and he will be able to get 4th in the championship. I am putting Perez 5th. I think the level between Verstappen and Perez is quite big, to be honest, but I think he'll still be able to get into the top 5. So let's talk driver transfers. I think there won't be a massive amount of transfers happening. I don't think there's going to be any during the season, but at the end of this season, I can see Daniel Ricciardo coming in and Sergio Perez going out. Now, Max Verstappen's already says that he doesn't want Ricciardo as a third driver. He likes to do all his sim work himself. Now, one thing that Red Bull need to do is keep Max Verstappen happy. As long as you've got a happy Verstappen, you are going to be winning championships. Now, Max Verstappen has his own simulator on his private jet. Now, I think if that doesn't show the dedication that this guy has to winning, then nothing will. There was obviously a bit of friction between Perez and Verstappen last season that went under the radar for pretty much the whole season until Brazil, when they had that snap over team radio. Would Verstappen welcome Ricciardo to come in as a third driver? I don't think Ricciardo is going to be pushing for championships, which is what Perez keeps talking about and saying he wants to do. I think if that friction is there, I think Red Bull would be happy to let Perez go and bring in Ricciardo. They know he can do it at their team. Now, staying with the Red Bull family, I think AlphaTauri will change their driver lineup at the end of the 2023 season, and I think they will bring in Mick Schumacher. Now, it would obviously be between Nick De Vries and Yuki Tsunoda, but I think Nick De Vries will have a really good season in that AlphaTauri, and I think they'll realise that Tsunoda does not have the level to be in F1. And I think if you don't show your potential in 3 years in that AlphaTauri, the whole point of that team is to put drivers in that Red Bull, then I think they'll be happy to replace Yuki with a driver like Mick Schumacher, who has won in Formula 2 and could be potentially World Championship material for the future. Now, Franz Tost has said that he wanted Mick. I'm not sure why he said that when he brought in Nick De Vries, but I think we should keep an eye out for this move. And obviously Mick is a Mercedes development driver, which Nick De Vries was last year, and they managed to get Nick into the AlphaTauri. So I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do this again. Next, I'm going to go through my bottom 5 drivers. Now, this is assuming that I don't think that Alfa Romeo is going to be massively competitive. I think Bottas will finish 16th. I think the Haas is going to be the worst car this year, so I put Hülkenberg 17th and Magnussen 18th. I think Hülkenberg, slightly better driver than Magnussen, and yeah, he has managed to beat him in a few seasons at that Haas team previously. 19th, I'm going to put Zhou. I love Zhou, but I can't see him beating Bottas, and I don't think that car is going to be great. And in last place, now I know I've ranked Williams quite high, but I think the majority of those points will come from Albon, and also I think that there might be a few more points towards the bottom of the championship this season. I think Sargent will be able to get a few, but I still think as the rookie on the grid, I don't think he'll be able to get that high. Next, we're going to go through who is going to be the most improved, and I think driver-wise, it is going to be Pierre Gasly. Now, he had a great season in 2020 and 2021. 2022 wasn't great for him, but the car was awful. I think Pierre Gasly joining Alpine, he's an extremely similar level to Esteban Ocon, and I think they're both at similar stages in their career, although Gasly has been stuck at that AlphaTauri, where Ocon has had a long-term contract with Alpine. Now, they've both got one race win, but I think Gasly will push on this season. I think it'll be quite close in points between the two at the end of the season, but I think Gasly will show why he is easily a top 8 or 9 driver on the grid currently. Now, in terms of most improved team, I think Aston Martin will push on, and I think their partnership with Alonso is going to be extremely strong. They've obviously got that long-term plan, and they've got all their new factories and facilities and things like that, and I think they're going to shock a few people. I think they might be able to be potentially best of the rest, although I think McLaren will take that spot, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Alonso or Stroll getting a few P4s and 5s this season. So next on the list is there going to be a new race winner? Now, if you look at who has already won a race in Formula 1, all the drivers from the top 3 teams have won races now. Obviously Norris and Piastri both haven't won a race. Alonso's won one, Gasly and Ocon have both won a race, and then Bottas has won. Now, in terms of teams, I can't see anyone other than the McLarens getting a win. I don't think Haas is going to get a win. I don't think Alfa Romeo, Williams, AlphaTauri. Then Aston Martin, obviously Alonso's got the win. He would be the driver I would have put my money on to get one if they were. Don't think Stroll's going to win a race this season, but I do think one of the 2 McLarens are going to win a race, and I'm going to say Lando Norris will win his first race in 2023. So moving on to our teammate battles. Now, the smallest gap is going to be in terms of qualifying pace. I think this is hard to put this on race results because the bottom 5 teams don't really score massive amounts of points. So one win could set you like miles above your teammate, where in terms of actual relative pace, you are on a similar level all season. So I think Gasly and Ocon will be the closest all season. I imagine they'll probably be about equal in qualifying, although Gasly is a great qualifier, so we might see him dominate a bit like that, and then maybe Ocon get a few more race results. There are a few other contenders that I wanted to give a shout out, one being Haas. Magnussen has had a great season at Haas last year, and Hulkenberg will be adapting, so I think that will be quite close. And then the McLaren, I don't think it's going to be a really small gap, but I think it's going to be smaller than a lot of people think. Now, in terms of biggest gap, I've gone with Aston Martin. Now, Vettel and Stroll sort of were surprising last year how sort of close they were. There wasn't a massive gap, but I do think Alonso is in better form in his career, and I think he will expose that gap a little bit more. Now, other teams that could have a big gap, I think Alfa Romeo will have a big gap between their teammates, and also Williams with Albon and Sargent. So let's talk about the new track, which is obviously the Las Vegas Grand Prix. My initial thoughts on this track and predictions are, I don't think it's going to be great. I think it's going to give off a similar vibe to Miami. Obviously, there's a lot of money in this, there's a lot of celebrities, publicity, and I think a lot of the attention is going to be on the fact it's at Las Vegas, and I think this is going to really take away from the racing. The reports are that the viewing is extremely limited unless you've got a huge amount of money. So similar to what happened in Miami with the water, people queuing hours for water and paying an absolute fortune. I think there's going to be a lot of negativity with Formula One fans flying out there and not really being able to see the race. Now, talking to seeing the race, I think the TV direction needs to be good. When you're at a new track, it can be extremely difficult to sort of figure out where you are on the track. Thinking of recent years like Jeddah and Miami, the TV direction, especially in a street circuit, when they have the cameras quite low on the track, it's hard to figure out where you are. I think you need quite a lot of aerial shots to be able to watch the racing. It just tells a greater picture of the story and how the race is developing. And in terms of the track itself, I actually think it's too similar to other tracks. I'm getting a little bit sort of bored of these street circuits with the barriers around the whole track. And I think Formula One could do something to push to maybe be a little bit different. Maybe go for more of a hybrid like Australia, where there is a part of it's a street circuit and part of it's more of an authentic F1 track, as Australia is a temporary circuit, so I don't see why they couldn't do this with other tracks like Las Vegas. But if you took the track out of Las Vegas, I don't think it has anything that I'm looking forward to massively about the actual track itself. Now, going through my final predictions, I think Lando and Piastri are going to be within 10% of points of one another. Now, that is, I don't think Lando's going to fall off. I think Piastri is going to be that good that at the end of the season, they will finish the season within 10% of each other's points. And I think McLaren fans should be extremely excited for this partnership. Everyone following Piastri through his F2 and F3 days knows what a top driver he is. And he's not coming into that team with past experience of Formula One cars like Ricciardo had, so he can learn that car like it's brand new, and I think he'll pick it up quite quickly. My next prediction is, I mentioned earlier, I think Williams will make a big step up this season. I think they will beat Alfa Romeo and Haas in the Constructors' Championship. I think James Vowles coming in, his experience is going to be priceless. I think it's a long-term project, but I think we will see the benefits of it this season. I think they have the strongest driver lineup that they have had since 2019. And now my final prediction for the 2023 season, I think there'll be a teammate rivalry throughout the season that loses a team quite a few points. Now we have Hulkenberg and Magnussen, who have obviously had some drama in the past. We've got Ocon and Gasly, who've had some drama. Verstappen Perez, who had that underlying issue the whole of last season apparently. And we've also got Alonso and Stroll. Now, Vettel and Stroll had a few collisions last year. I don't think Vettel's the sort of driver to escalate things, where Alonso is the polar opposite. I think Alonso will call out Stroll, and it'd be interesting to see how Aston Martin react to this. So obviously Stroll's driving for his dad's company, so he's quite safe in that aspect. But thinking of the crash that happened at Kota last year, I think if that happens, Alonso isn't going to be silent about it. I think he will voice his opinion. So that's my 2023 pre-testing Formula One predictions. Now obviously with testing coming up in a few weeks, we might see the order change massively. And some of these might age quite badly already, but these are just my off-season predictions on what I think is going to happen next season. So let me know down in the comments, give me one bold prediction for this upcoming season, and we'll review it at the end of the year.